YouTube. I'm Natalie Saunderson, and thank you for being here. This is my channel for all things relating to yoga practice and spiritual growth. And it's not exclusive to either. You can still be watching this channel and not be particularly interested in the yoga. But generally speaking, I am addressing things that I've discovered through my relationship with yoga. And today's topic, I've actually decided to chop into 3 separate videos. And it is the topic of getting out of your own way. And getting out of your own way, for many of us, applies to so many of the same similar themes, let's say. So we need to kind of recognize that part of our evolution is going to be meeting where we feel resistance. Right? So growth isn't generally happening in areas where we're already experiencing a natural flow of energy or things are working out, right? That's already in momentum. Where we're going to hit in any area of our lives, whether it's our relationships, our careers, our creative endeavors, our ability physically if we're training for something, whatever it is, getting out of your own way is really about how you meet that challenge. And so this came to me today, and I am taking my own advice, jumped on to shoot this for you guys so that maybe there's something in this that you recognize you're doing that's holding you back from those deeper nudges that we all get around moving us forward and making changes or really going after what we want. And there's 3 things that I feel are almost essential to recognize when we're actively about to approach something and get out of our own way. And the first one in this video I'm going to be talking about is letting go of perfection. The second one is to speak and recognize and support your competition or others, right? Comparison is one of the worst things that we can do that can actually keep us locked in action for quite a long time, right? And it's very, very common, especially these days on social media, where everybody's presenting something that, is polished, is marketed, is packaged. And the last one is act on the direction that you want to go in. But for this video, I want to talk specifically around perfection and how it looks for different people, because your relationship to what you consider perfect is unique, right? The expectations that you have for your relationship or for your career growth or whatever it is that you're being kind of asked to look at or nudged towards changing, your expectations are completely yours to manage. And one of the things that I think I've noticed in the last year of my own life is that I've become really curious about when I developed those expectations, basically, of myself. When did I start being very kind of critical? Right, so I chose to shoot this on a day where I'm a bit lower energy. I didn't really polish myself for this video. And this has also been a very freeing part of my own journey the last year, is that recognizing that you likely have been accumulating beliefs for a very long time that weren't always about you, right? So maybe you were told when you were younger that you were good at certain things and you weren't good at others, right? So this is where it starts to be interesting when we do the work to look back and see, when did I start deciding that I couldn't just be free to try something new? Because if you look at kids, right, we don't do that to children. Hopefully we don't do that to children. We let them explore, we let them make mistakes, we let them cultivate their ability, right, freely, without giving it necessarily a judgment. But when we get older, right, we have these very definitive ideas of what success looks like. And again, your version of success might not be the same version as your partner's. Your physical goals or fitness probably aren't the same as anybody else's. And when we're constantly working towards this idea, if we're holding on to it still, of perfect, right? The perfect time to change jobs, perfect time to start a project, the perfect time to have a baby, the perfect time to meet that person, we're actually working against ourselves because we've let go of allowing ourselves to show up and do some of the other steps. And one of them is really putting your ideas and your guidance into action. And so your relationship with perfection is actually it's a beautiful kind of inspirational element behind whatever that you do in life. But for many, many people, I think it actually causes them to not act. And perfection is also a complete illusion, right? So perfection is subject to the person who's observing whatever it is that you're judging at that moment. Perfect doesn't exist. There's always going to be opportunities to improve, to change, to refine, to learn, to grow more, right? So there's not a perfect headstand because you could also do it longer. You could be more relaxed in it. You see what I'm saying? Try a different variation. And the same is true for anything you set your sights on. Your relationship is never going to be perfect because it's dynamic, right? It's not a still, immobile thing. What you can focus on is moving your relationship to your version of what perfect would feel like or look like. So let's say less fights, more adventure, whatever, more intimate conversation, right? Your definition of perfection, once broken down, can be released once you understand the core kind of foundational values that you consider behind the word or the kind of the idea of perfection. And when we look at our physicality, there's so much these days still, despite all the work that we do in society, there's still so much subtle underlying judgment around what we look like, how others look, right? And it's been ongoing for as long as we've been here. But it's really important that you recognize that your goals, your message, your actions, or whatever it is that you're helping yourself get out of your own way about, your participation has a ripple effect, right? So if you train for that marathon and your friends see that, this is something you're doing and you don't do it perfectly, and you don't place first or second, and you've gone through this really big commitment to finally be able to run that race, let's say. What you've actually done is put into motion your intentions in such a way that other people might be inspired or fueled by, right? So if you were to hold yourself in this false belief that it needs to be perfect, and you're not going to do it until you make a good enough time, that is actually going to hold you back. So you can't necessarily perform at that level yet. And if you hold yourself back thinking, I'm not there yet, I can't do it, it's going to also create resistance in your ability to show up and support yourself and stay inspired and stay on target with your goals. So this is the first step, is recognizing in your belief system whatever ideas you still have around being perfect. And I'll share one or two from my own life that I've really had to release lately. Being a mother, there's always moments that we question after the fact, right? So there will be times in the day where someone's tired, someone's hungry, or there's just a lot going on. And like any relationship, dynamics can just evolve and happen. And it's not about being perfect as a parent, because there also is no perfect parent. There's real parents. There's parents that want to improve how they parent. There's parents that know what areas they can look at, they can work on. But if I hold the belief that I am not a perfect parent, one, I'm actually creating a lot of energy, basically beating myself up about what I lack, instead of also acknowledging what I'm really awesome at as a parent. And when I talk to other parents, if I hold this belief that there's a perfect way to parent, I'm likely going to hit a lot of resistance, because chances are they're not going to think the same way that I do. And chances are they're not going to have the same ideas about what a perfect parent looks like. And so I've also been through this process of, where did I get this idea that there is a perfect parent? Because we see it all over in society. And there's a lot of value to being more aware in how we parent and our goals as parents. But there's also the belief in its underlying kind of initial conception that is flawed, because there is no perfect. There's no perfect relationship, there's no perfect person. Therefore, we can never be perfect at any one role, right? We can only aspire to continue to do better and better and better. And the other big part of my life that's really been speaking to me lately is this idea of showing up for you guys, or showing up in social media, or showing up for how I teach in this completed or perfect messaging. Because what I do know about yoga is that it's an evolution, right? It's a relationship that keeps evolving. We realize one thing one year, a couple of years later, we might realize the complete opposite applies to us now, right? We gain insight and we also outgrow it. And that was very challenging for me because it's something that I'm always seeking or kind of feeling into, and that is truth. But truths shift, and truths are different for different people depending on what they need to hear and where they're at. And so the idea, if I was to hold myself back and wait for the day where I had the exact answer or message or complete teaching under my belt, I'd be waiting a long time, because there is no such thing. What there is a conversation that's happening between people when you are a teacher, when you're a student, and I've been a student all my life. And it's an exchange of ideas and a reflection of what someone's going through, and it might resonate one day and it might not the other, right? It's something that you have no real control over how it's received, because that's not why you do it. But to show up and do anything creative, whether it's teaching or writing or painting, whether it's poetry or singing, your job is not to focus on, I'm going to get this perfect. Your job is to simply lean into where you feel most aligned and what you feel drawn to. In the process of that, in the process of action, which is the last video, you're going to naturally find that you create a product that, again, how could you possibly call it perfect or not perfect, but that you feel is at some point complete and ready for others to experience. I hope this video was helpful. In the next video, I'm going into the second part of breaking down your own resistance, and that is being able to recognize and work with the habit of comparison. If you love these videos, then please do hit subscribe below, and I'll see you in the second video.